So welcome back to Mind Pump TV. It's Sonny Webster here, ex-Team GB Olympic weightlifter. Now I hope that you've checked out the previous video on the overhead squat and on the mobility, but now today we're gonna take a look at the snatch balance. Now the most important thing to remember with the snatch balance is there's two different ways of doing it. There's snatch balance of a leg drive, which looks like this, and snatch balance without any drive, and we're dropping into the bottom, which looks like this. So make sure you check out the two differences. The one we're gonna be focusing on now is the one for leg drive. Right, so the first thing we're gonna address is the setup for this. Now, in terms of the way we take the bar at the rack, it's exactly the same as what you would have seen in the last video for the overhead squat. We're gonna set our hands up first. So I'm always using these marks on the bar as a guide for when I'm unracking the bar. But always bear in mind, I'm taking the bar at the rack this way for your benefit, but in an ideal world, you're gonna be facing in and taking the bar at the rack and stepping out. Okay, so once we've got a grip, I want the bar resting right up on top of my traps. So you can see here, I'm bunching my shoulders up so the bar is resting right up on top of my traps. Okay, so that way the weight is sinking down into the lower body. Now in terms of my foot position, I've got the feet exaggerated, I guess, inside shoulder width. Now the reasoning for this is to help promote the feet moving out when we're catching the bar in the actual lift. So we're feet inside shoulder width, and then our elbows are directly underneath the bar, which means when we go to lock out overhead, all we've got to do is this as opposed to this, okay? So we're elbows underneath the bar, we're squeezing the bum. I'd say now we're slightly 60-40 weight in the heels, okay? And then to initiate the dip, what we're gonna be doing from here is bending at the knee. Now, in terms of how low you wanna bend to the point where your knees are directly above the toes. Any lower, and you might find yourself dropping forward, which is no good when we're initiating the snatch balance. From here, what we're gonna be doing from our bottom of the dip position is we're gonna be rising right up onto the toes. So it's a dip and drive. From this top position, we're gonna let the bar continue to go up into our receiving position, and then feet move out into the catch, and we go down into our bottom position here, okay? I'm gonna show you that one more time. Feet inside shoulder width, elbows directly underneath the bar, squeeze the bum, weight in the heels, dip, drive, catch, down into the bottom position, and standing up. Key thing there is when we catch the bar, you don't want to pause before you drop. It's got to be one continuous movement, okay? And secondly, the whole way through the movement, pick something to focus on just above eye level so that you're using whatever you're looking at as a focal point for balance. This will also help you keep the chest up throughout the full movement. Now, as soon as you hit the bottom position, i.e. the end range of your squat, I want you to think about standing straight up and out the bottom. What I don't want to see is you relaxing there, because the likelihood is that you'll miss the bar forward. So as soon as you hit that, stand right up and out the bottom position. And make sure, if you're doing multiple reps, that you reset the feet every single time. So a couple of the common things that you need to make sure you're nailing when you're doing this is the foot movement. Now, what you'll see a lot of the time is people will be doing the snatch balance and the feet will go super wide and you'll make a starfish. And it's a common misconception that you can't overhead squat with your feet close. It's easier when it's wide, because it's not. The wider your feet go, the harder it is for you to sit upright, and your hips will drop back into this position, no good. And I'm super mobile and I still find that hard. So make sure your feet are only moving to no wider than 1 foot outside shoulder width before you go down into your bottom position. This will allow the knees to stay tracking out over the toes and for you to stay nice and upright in your bottom position. So what you'll see here is I've just set up to put 2 collars or 2 dumbbells or 2 wall balls is fine at the outer extremities of where I want my feet when I'm doing my overhead squat or my snatch balance. Therefore, then when I go to practice my snatch balance, I've got these as a guide as wide as I'm allowed to move, okay? This will get me used to feeling where the right position is. Now, if you find you do it and you kick too wide, you're then gonna be landing on the collars, or the collars are gonna move out, which is no good. So always make sure you reset them and then start again with feet inside shoulder width, going down into your bottom position. This is gonna help you get used to being in that correct position in the catch. Now, if you find that, again, that's still not helping, you're still struggling to get down, then it probably means that you need to resort back to one of the earlier videos that we did on mobility and spend a little bit more time mobilizing those ankles and hips before you progress through to the next video. Second common problem that you'll see people struggling with when they're doing the snatch balance is using the arms to drive the bar instead of the legs. So what I like to do is when the bar's out on my shoulders here and I'm in my set position is forget about throttling the bar, keep the arms relaxed and think about it like a throw and a catch so that your feet land at the same time the arms lock out. That way it'll stop you from driving the bar with the upper body when it goes overhead, which will commonly result in you missing the bar behind. The last technical point that I want to exaggerate is where the bar is when it's overhead. Now, when I'm driving the bar up into the receiving position, my focus is that throughout the dip and drive, the line of the bar goes down straight and tracks back up straight. Okay, we don't want any variation here, back and forth. From there, when I'm driving up and I'm catching the bar overhead, is that it's over the crown of the head, and if I was to draw a straight line down from the end of the bar, it's tracking right over the midfoot all the way into my bottom position. Now, what you'll find, the lower you go down, the likelihood is as you hit your bottom position, your hips are going to want to drop back like that. So focus on keeping the knees over the toes or knees tracking forward into the bottom position, which will keep the weight in midfoot and make it much easier for you to use the legs to stand up from the bottom position. So I would always suggest when we're doing snatch balance that we're working between the rep ranges of just 1 and 2. And you want to work up to roughly, as a benchmark, 110% of what you can snatch, you should be able to snatch balance. Now, there's nothing better than having already caught the bar and stood up with it before you get round to snatching it. So in terms of the way that I'd program this exercise or include it into your training would be to work from 80% upwards, singles to 2 reps, and try and do about 6 working sets within this range. Remember, if you're struggling to lower the bar down onto the back of the traps, you can always dump the bar to the floor and place it back up in the rack. If you find you get to 80 or 90% of your 1RM snatch when you're doing this exercise and you're nowhere near, then don't keep pushing it. This just highlights an area that you're gonna need to spend a little bit more time on in order to develop that strength and the stability in the catch position for the snatch. So the other type of snatch balance that I think is worth mentioning is drop snatch balance. Now, although this necessarily isn't a technique that I'd put into the learning process of the Olympic movement, it is something that I would have you practicing as a beginner to help you develop speed into the catch position. Now, I'm gonna demonstrate this for you now. Now, the setup is exactly the same as what we were doing when we were doing the normal snatch balance. So we take the bar out, resting up onto the traps, arms are completely relaxed here, and the feet start within shoulder width, okay? Now from here, instead of dip and driving, what we're looking to do is to drop into a receiving position without driving the bar at all. So it should look a little something like this. As you catch the bar, you want to focus on standing straight up out the bottom position. Now, a common fault, again, with this exercise will be the starfish feet, but it'll also be the chest dropping into this position, which is not what we want when we've got weight overhead. So you need to make sure that you're staying upright and still completing the same movement as what you were doing with the other type of snatch balance. Now, in terms of the rep ranges for this, 5 sets of 5, just with an empty bar, the focus on speed anyway is perfect. And it makes for a very good warm-up movement if you're doing snatch on that day's training. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video on the snatch balance. Remember to like and subscribe and go and check out the next video, which is going to be on setting up for the snatch.